Hey there everybody, it's me Wolfe, and I want to welcome you to the Tip Tuesday for the first week of Wolfe's English. This week we're going to be talking about using a photo description to practice your English. So let's just jump right into it. So in this lesson, we're going to be talking about using a photo description to practice your English. There are 5 reasons why I think using a photo description is a good place to start practicing your English. The first reason is because you can practice all the verbs and nouns that you already know. The second reason is you can look up and learn new verbs and nouns that you might not know. The third reason is you can practice adjectives and adverbs properly. The fourth reason is you can practice prepositions like in, on, next to, in between properly. And the last reason is you can practice using articles like a, un, and the properly. A photo description is a really great place to start. The first reason I think a photo description is a good place to start is because in some exams you're going to have to do a photo description. So it's a good thing to have practiced, so it's one less thing you have to worry about when studying for those exams. The second reason I think it's really good to practice is because you can either do it by yourself or you can do it in a group. So if you're too shy to do it with other people, you can do it by yourself, or if you want to practice, you can do it with a group of people. Also, you can practice by writing it down or doing it orally by speaking. So if you're too shy and you aren't really confident enough to speak, you can always write it down. Or if you want to practice your speaking and listening skills, you can practice it with a group of friends who are also studying English. The last reason is a photo description is really good practice for storytelling. If you can do a photo description, it probably means that you're good at telling stories as well. So let's talk about where you're going to start your photo description. The way that I like to do photo descriptions is starting from the biggest thing and then going down to the smallest thing and then ending with a personal feeling or experience. So let's pull up the photo that we're going to be talking about in our example today. If you'd like to, you can go down in the description and open up the link, and the example we're going to be doing today is on page 2 of the worksheet. First, we're going to talk about the place. A lot of my students will say here is and then the place. That is not correct. If you say here is, it sounds like you're presenting something. So instead of saying here is, you're going to use the expression this place is and then the place. So this place is a park. Now after we talk about where the photo is taking place at, you're going to talk about the main focus of the picture. So in this picture, the main focus is a man. So we're going to use the expression either I can see or there is, there are. So in my example, I'm going to start off with I can see. You're going to say, I can see a man on the left side of the picture. Since it's the first time I'm talking about the man, I'm going to say a man, and then I'm going to talk about where he is, on the right side of the picture or the left side of the picture. So I can see a man on the left side of the picture. Every time I talk about the man from now on, I'm going to use the man. So let's talk about what is he doing. The man is reading a book. The man is wearing a yellow shirt and black pants. The man is not wearing shoes. The man is holding a book in his right hand and resting his chin on his left hand. The man is wearing glasses and has short black hair. So after you talk about all the things about the man, you're going to talk about something else in the picture. So let's talk about the lake. On the right side of the picture, there is a lake. The lake is huge. So that first time I talk about the lake, I'm going to say a lake. So there is a lake, and then after that I'm going to say the lake. So the lake is huge. So I can see a lake, there is a lake, the lake is huge. The man is sitting on a sidewalk next to the lake. So in that sense, I talked about where the man is sitting. The man is sitting on the sidewalk next to the lake. You're going to want to make sure you're using those right prepositions. On the sidewalk and next to the lake. Now we're going to talk about the background and the foreground. So when you talk about the background and the foreground, you're talking about the positioning. Before we talked about on the right side of the picture, on the left side of the picture. When you want to talk about left and right, you say of the picture. When you're talking about the back and the front, you're going to say in the background, in the foreground. So, for example, in the background, I can see lots of trees and a building. I can see the trees and the sky are reflecting on the lake. In the foreground, there are some plants. Now let's talk about the weather. The sky is cloudy, so I think the weather isn't so good. The last thing I'm going to talk about in this example is my personal experience or my feelings. So I'll say, I like to read, but I don't like to read outside because it gives me a headache. When you're doing a photo description, you want to make sure you give as many details as possible. So when you're doing your own photo descriptions practice, make sure that you give as many details as possible. The more sentences that you make, the more mistakes you'll make. And then you'll see what kind of grammatic mistakes you're making and what kind of problems you have when you make your own sentences. So now that we've talked about the example for this week, we're going to talk about some of the common mistakes a lot of my students will make. The first mistake students make when they are doing a photo description or when they're making their own sentences is they don't use the correct be verb plus ing. So whenever you're talking about a be verb, you're talking about am, is, or are. Whenever you say one of those be verbs, you have to add an ing to the verb. So, for example, the first two I'm going to say are incorrect, and then the last one is correct. So, he is read is not correct. He reading is not correct. He is reading is correct. So whenever you're using one of those be verbs, am, is, or are, you have to make sure you have an ing verb after it. Like I said before, whenever my students talk about a place, they'll say, here is in the place. This isn't correct. If you say here is, it sounds like you are presenting or you're giving something. Instead of saying here is, you should say this place is something. So, for example, here is a lake is not correct. Instead of saying here is a lake, you'll want to say this place is a lake. The other mistake my students make are they switch tenses while doing a photo description. So a tense is either the past tense, the present tense, or the future tense. Usually when we do a photo description, you either do it in the past tense or the present tense. Whichever one you decide to do the first sentence in, you have to do it the rest of the time. So let's say you start with the present tense, you have to make sure all of your sentences are in the present tense. If you start with the past tense, you have to make sure all of your sentences start in the past. So, for example, this place is a lake. I can see a man. The man was reading. This is not correct. Was is past tense. My first two sentences were present tense, so I need to make sure all of the sentences are present tense. So instead I would say, this place is a lake. I can see a man. The man is reading. Now if you want to change it all to past, you'd say, this place was a lake. There was a man. The man was reading. Personally, I like to do everything in present tense just because it sounds more comfortable to me. But if you want to practice using the past tense, you can also do your photo description in the past tense. The last common mistake we're going to talk about is one of the mistakes from our basic lesson from this week about using a or un for a plural noun. So if there is one thing that you can count, you want to make sure you say a. So like a man, a pen. If there's many, you're going to use an S. So pens. So I have a pen. I have pens. You have to pick one or the other. You cannot say I have a pens. It's not correct. So make sure you're always thinking about, are there one or many? If there's one, use a or un. If there's many, use s at the end of the noun. So I hope this was a helpful lesson for you guys. If you guys have any questions or comments, you can post them down below, and I will try to get back to as many of you as I can. If you have any suggestions for future videos, you can also post them down below. If you would like to have some extra practice and examples doing photo descriptions, you can click the link down below to the blog post, and there will be a worksheet with the example we did today, and also there are 3 more samples for you guys to practice with. And in those 3 samples, there are key phrases that you guys can use, and then you'll fill in the blanks for your practice. If you guys enjoyed this video, please share it with your other friends who are learning English, and you can subscribe to my channel by clicking the red button down below. Also down below there is the Wolfe's English Instagram linked in the description that you guys can follow to get all the updates on the videos I'm posting on this channel, along with Instagram story quizzes, new vocabulary that you'll need for the lessons, and also key expressions that you can use in your photo descriptions. I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and I will see you next time. Bye!